Hello everyone, it's Hack again. Well, recently I've been thinking about how to improve my videos for you guys. So I came up with the idea to make a separate video for the spoiler stuff that I talk about from the actual review. So that the reviews will be much shorter for you guys who just want to hear the review. And have the spoilers put in a separate video for those who do want to know what I have to say that would spoil all the movie for those of you who haven't seen the movies. So without further ado, let's get started with that, with some of the clips that I shot for the spoiler stuff that I did for my review for The Dark Knight Rises. So enjoy. But there are a lot of issues that make it a very good reason why this didn't really exceed The Dark Knight. First of all, I thought it was really dumb how they showed Selina Kyle as Catwoman. Well, how they first showed her as Catwoman. Because, I mean, the last time we see her before she's introduced as Catwoman, she's just being, Selina Kyle, manipulative, thief, everything, just the way we love her. And then the next thing, there's like this big chase scene with Batman and Bane's men and the police and everything. But in the middle of that, they just show Selina Kyle all of a sudden being Catwoman for the first time in the movie. For like, I don't know, 9 seconds. I mean, that's where I'm like, that's kind of bland and really dull. Because all of a sudden it's like action, 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 and then the middle of it for 3 seconds practically, you just see her as Catwoman for the first time in the middle of cracking a case or something like that. So it's like lame. I mean, really, as far as showing her as Catwoman for the first time, I think it would have made more sense to introduce her dressed as Catwoman the second time we see her, which was when she was threatening that guy over getting that program, because that made it a little more menacing and kind of she had a bigger dramatic entrance to her as being Catwoman. So that's not a perfect way to introduce her as Catwoman, but it was better than what we were with what we had. And I roughly felt the same way with how they first showed Scarecrow in this movie, which, let's be perfectly clear, that was awesome. I mean, him being in the movie in general was all of a sudden, like right in the middle of it, was pretty funny and just it was pretty awesome and entertaining all around. But the way they first showed him, I thought came a little too late. Well, didn't come right at the right time. Because, I mean, he wasn't shown until he started sentencing that one guy, and when they could have just really showed him the first time that they showed that courtroom where he's judging people, because I think that would have been a nicer effect, that all of a sudden here's Jonathan Crane while he's judging people while we are listening to Bane's monologue. So I think that would have structured better. It still was pretty awesome, but I think as far as editing and, timing all around, I think that would have made much more sense. And then there's a lot of stuff that I found just really plain cheesy, to be perfectly frank. I mean, the first thing was like when Batman came back from being in that prison and like Bane's first reaction was going, "Impossible!" Which is like, really? I mean, sure, you'll probably react that way because it was supposed to be really freaking hard to escape there. But I think we're past the moment in movies where we shouldn't have so many cliche reactions when the villain is so shocked that the hero has triumphed. So that's where I was. So yeah, that didn't work. And then there's the whole thing in general about a bomb that's about to go off, and Batman has to sacrifice himself to save people by taking the bomb away from them. But I think the cheesiest part for me was how Bruce Wayne escaped that prison. Because it seemed like the main way that he was going to escape was just make that ledge. And he keeps failing every time because he keeps falling short like everybody else. But then he succeeds by just, making the ledge. Like, he does practically the same thing he did when he failed the first 3 times, and then all of a sudden when things go all dramatic, he makes it. And see, I would have preferred, well, different, obviously. Something very different, but something that's clever, like he came up with some sort of gadget that he made out of bars from the prison or something, you know, because it's Batman. He thinks of something very clever to overcome obstacles when things seem pretty much impossible and he doesn't have some of his gadgets or something like that. So, you know, when it comes to think of something very clever or that you probably wouldn't expect, like when it came to that test he had with Ra's al Ghul in Batman Begins, where he where he gives a couple of cuts to a bunch of other soldiers, so Ra's al Ghul will think it's him when it's really not. Yeah, I think that would have made more sense, and it would have been less cheesy, because to me, the whole thing in general with him just doing the same thing he did when he failed the first 3 times were just unnecessary. I think that's, well, actually, single-minded would be the better word for that. Yeah, it was a very single-minded type of obstacle and overcoming it kind of thing. And then there's a few other issues, such as the battle not really being what I expected. I mean, firstly, it's partly because it's pretty dumb for the police, because they just took a narrow path to charge right at the terrorists, who have guns, by the way, which is strategically stupid. I mean, seriously. But again, it's the fact that the people who are fighting Bane and his terrorists are just the police and Batman, and that's it. I find that a downer because, well, I mean, this is a point of view for me who has just recently been reading a lot of the books since The Dark Knight. So, well, from what I've been reading, there's been a lot of points such as The Dark Knight Rises, where Batman has done stuff like summon in other heroes, or even summon in like gangs or stuff like that to help win a big ultimate war in Gotham. Especially since this is the final battle. This is the ultimate battle that will decide between eternal peace for Gotham or eternal chaos from Gotham, or at least chaos until the bomb explodes. So, naturally, I thought it was going to be like Batman, the police, and practically every man, woman, and child in Gotham. Like, well, not exactly everybody, and certainly not all the children, but you get what I'm saying. Because to me, if it's about the final official decision between chaos and peace in Gotham, I would have thought there would be more people who were really fighting Bane and his men besides just Batman and the police. Because really, I thought the civilians would even want a piece of action against Bane after the 5 months of chaos that's been going on. But again, that's my point of view, so maybe it makes more sense that it's just Batman and the police, because, you know, they're the freedom fighters, you know, the people who fight crime, but that's my opinion. And finally, what is kind of the big thing for me is the ending. What's wrong with it? I have a lot of trouble accepting it, I think is the right way to put it. I mean, don't get me wrong, the idea is awesome, but I mean, first of all, it was pretty rushed for the most part. And for another thing, it's, I guess the whole idea to it was, to me, way, and I mean way too good to be true, with really any superhero, let alone Batman. This is kind of my point of view about comics, or really superhero stories in general. Because most of the time, it's just, you know, you have all these big stories, but it's pretty much as happy as it gets, with just getting the girl, destroying the villain, or just dealing with the latest catastrophe. Whether it's, you know, the actual super villains or something even bigger, like Infinity Crisis, Fear Itself, Siege, whatever. So with superheroes in general, it seems like an all-around new, with even if it's just like a TV show or a movie, where we actually get an ending where the city or the world is at peace for good, to the point where the superhero can finally hang up the cape and never be the superhero again, and just live happily ever after with his soulmate or family or whatever. I guess it's hard to accept with that because it's an all-around new, and it seems kind of too good to be true, considering it's so. It hasn't been done with either in comics, unless it's like one of those alternate ending kind of things, or if it's from the movies or something. And this is kind of harder to accept considering out of all these superheroes where this is happening, it is happening to Batman. Why do I say that? Because it's Batman. He is the Dark Knight. He focuses on nothing, and I mean nothing else, but his war on crime in Gotham. He barely pays attention too much about, his social life, his physical condition, sometimes even his companions. He barely trusts anybody. Not like he trusts Alfred a little, sure, but everyone else he goes so far as like being prepared if some other superheroes got on rogue, like Superman or Green Lantern or something, because he is so focused on the mission that he never really cares about himself, other than it's all just about the war in Gotham, which is part of what makes Batman so awesome. But it's so common, it happens so often, that the idea that even if it's just like a TV show or a movie, it seems kind of weird to accept that we get an ending where the Dark Knight of all people finally get that ending, that Gotham is safe kind of for all eternity, more or less, and he gets to live happily ever after with Catwoman of all people, the conflicting relationship that he's had with her since the 30s or whatever. So it's just a really, really big and really different ending all around when it comes to superheroes in general, let alone a superhero like the Dark Knight himself. So, I mean, I have trouble accepting it anyway because it was pretty rushed and stuff like that, and it's kind of conflicting to accept there's a happy ending, considering that shortly after that we find out about the Aurora shootings. Not to talk too much about that, but that's how I feel. So maybe one day I will accept this ending, or maybe an ending similar for any other superhero. But I guess for me as a comic book reader and as a fan of Batman, it seems too good to be true to actually to accept it. But again, that is just me. So there you have it, guys. I hope this is so much more helpful for all of you, and especially with having my reviews be much shorter than they usually are. So here's 2 more videos where hopefully this will be more helpful for you guys, and hopefully I'll see you until then.